the Iowa Hawkeyes. Joe, going into the 2025 season, when you look at the Iowa Hawkeyes, your thoughts going into the season. Now, I got to admit something. I don't do this often. I am going to give you the complete floor on what you think on Mike Gronowski because he is a South Dakota State guy.
Okay, I already got to correct you. Mark Gronowski.
See, I don't even know.
Mark Gronowski
you flipped your shit when he went to Iowa.
Hey, respect Mark Gronowski. Any college football fan needs to respect this. I can't even call him a young man. He's been playing football for 7 years.
Dude, he literally had his first snap in 2022.
It's insane how long he's been around. He's been on national championship competing teams, national championship winning teams. He won the FCS Heisman. I don't think that this transfer portal move got enough pub. And anyone who's going to just say that Iowa is a walkover knows nothing about this team and knows nothing about Gronowski. Mark Gronowski is the type of quarterback that will keep them in any game on their schedule, even ones where they are significantly outmatched, because he is a fantastic runner. He's a pretty good passer as well. 12,000 career total yards in his time as the Jackrabbits quarterback. This dude has been a game changer since his early days playing at South Dakota State. And this is going to be the biggest driving force for any success they have. Now, I'm not like super duper bullish on Iowa this year like I blindly was last year.
Yeah, you are.
They've been the epitome of consistency because we know that over the last 10 seasons, 9 of the last 10 seasons, they've won at least 8 games. They're going to be able to get to there. But Gronowski gives them juice. And this defense that they're bringing back, their O-line, they're bringing back a lot of veteran starters. They have a well-rounded, experienced roster that is enough for them to finish at the top of the standings.
Iowa got a lot of national recognition because of the simple fact that there were divisions in the Big Ten. And they won their division more times than not. It's not the same.
Mm-mm.
The 9-3 that you're going in now, the 8-4 that you're going in now is not the same. Joe, here's the truth. It's Iowa. And I don't mean to like discredit them as a program. You got to get better offensively. Now, you're speaking high on their quarterback situation. I know in 23 he had a better situation. I would digress to you. I don't know if just South Dakota State was better offensively in 2023 versus 2024. I'm assuming they were. Statistically, he was better. I think he had less interceptions, more touchdowns. Last year he did run for 10 touchdowns, which, I mean, just screams being mobile. Joe, this is the Big Ten, okay? And when you take that massive of a leap in play, I know what he did in the FCS. I'm not trying to degrade what he did in the FCS. There also just comes a part where what do you do against some of these teams that are going to kill you, right? Like, I mean, like, are out for blood. I don't know if offensively that they, number one, have the weapons to benefit him, nor do I know or feel as if that, like, listen, I don't mean this in a wrong way. There comes a part for me that I got to see him do this in the Big Ten. Not saying he can't. Not saying it wasn't a great move, but Iowa offensively, quite honestly, has been a joke. And I think that the two things can be true at once. You are a solid program. You're a solid program because you build it the right way, and there's a floor for you of those 8 wins. Joe, is Vanderzee going to be their leading guy at wide receiver? I know that they bring back Jacob Gill, who was their leading wide receiver a year ago. Joe, but
411 yards, which is
35 catches. 35 catches. Like in the new age of the Big Ten, that's not acceptable. It isn't. Now, I know it's not the way that we do things. We run the football, play tough-nosed defense. Sounds good. You're replacing a big-time running back, and I know that Moulton had a good season a year ago. The bottom line is Joe, when it comes to Iowa, and I, again, don't mean this in a wrong way, I'm putting my hands up offensively. Listen, I mean, they're winning these games based off of being solid defensively, and when defensively you had to reload a season ago, it bit you in the ass. I mean, I hate to call it like that. Maybe Gronowski can do some better things. But, Joe, I don't know if I see it because McNamara didn't have bad film sometimes. He also had no help. I mean, Joe, what was the game that we were talking about last year? It comes off the tip of my tongue. I forget. Maybe it was Indiana. I don't remember. But nobody open. No one. So this kid could be really good. I just don't know if he has the guys around him that can do anything special.
Okay, so where I sit with this, their offensive line, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be stout. They're going to have a fine time protecting. They've always had good linemen. In Gennings, Dunker, Logan Jones. I'm not high on Dunker as a draft prospect, but like they're two of the better offensive linemen coming back in the Big Ten. So you've got that experience. You've got reliability. You're replacing Caleb Johnson. You're replacing Luke Lakey, who was your bigger name tight end that you had. I agree with what you're bringing up here. Like, are they suddenly going to have a weapon? They've historically, or not historically, but over the past few years, they have not had good receivers. They haven't. No. They haven't been able to move the ball through the air. But where I feel like things get a little bit more dynamic is that they've never, I don't know if I could say never, but like for the past 5 years, when was the last time that they had a truly athletic quarterback like Gronowski? They've had all these big, stiff statues like Nate Stanley dropping back. These guys that couldn't move, that were sitting ducks, that would stand in the pocket, nobody would get open, and they'd take a hit. And when they couldn't run the ball, they were cooked. I think that there is now a very unique layer that's added in. And I don't think that just because he's mobile that suddenly the receivers start to get open easier. I think that now that he's mobile, it creates a different threat that they just have not had under Ferentz.
Very fair.
Well, I implore Iowa fans to comment, like, when was the last athletic mobile quarterback that Ferentz has had? I can't think. I think of they're all the same.
The last athletic wide receiver that they've had that's overly athletic.
Well, right. Well, that's a given, and it's kind of plays with what we're saying here. But all the quarterbacks they've had have just been these big white dudes that can't move. They can't. They're not athletic.
White man can jump.
Gronowski can move, man. And I think that that's where they go. They're not going to be the usual Iowa team that we see where, like against Ohio State, they can't move the ball. And the game just is kind of just over, despite them playing pretty decent on defense in spurts, because they can't move the damn ball. It's like, okay, great. This is boring and this is disappointing. They're going to be able to extend drives and put points on the board easier than they have in the past. I don't know for certain what that degree is, and hopefully their receiver room is a little bit more explosive than it's been over the past 4 years.
Look, there were a lot of games like South Dakota. No, not South Dakota State, but just South Dakota, okay, where they had some situations where he ran. But here's the problem that I have, Joe, is last year, if you remember, you picked the upset for Oklahoma State to get beat by South Dakota State. Remember? You were joking. You were just making, whatever.
I was being quite certain about it, but
okay. Regardless, Joe, he tried to run on Oklahoma State and got absolutely stuffed with that defense. So I agree with what you're saying on the athleticism part. Joe, go back and watch that Oklahoma State game from a season ago. They did get beat 40-4. I think it was 44-17, 44-20, something like that. But he ran the ball for 10 yards for 10. He had 10 attempts for 17 yards. Like, they tried, and against a really bad FBS team defensively, they could not run the ball, like, at all. And quite honestly, if you go back and watch the first half, there are a couple times where he gets tracked down. So I get listen, hold on. Okay. I don't disagree that athletically he's the best that they have had. That doesn't mean that you can go in the Big Ten and run away from some of these guys if you can't run away from Oklahoma State.
I was just going to chime in and say that for a second I was going to make the excuse of like, well, he had an FCS team around him. The quality of offensive line that he had at South Dakota State last year and over the last couple of years, I mean, go back and look. They've put a number of guys out into the NFL not to the same degree of success of Iowa, but they've been more successful at developing offensive linemen and running backs more than the back half of the P4. And the receiving room wasn't great, but it was probably on par with what Iowa had last year. So yeah, like I kind of actually will concede that point to you. I'm not saying South Dakota State's offense. Yeah, I'm not going to say that South Dakota State's offense was exactly the same as Iowa's or better last year. That's not what I'm saying. There's a little bit more talent for Iowa, but but I just think that that it could provide a little bit of an example. They have to be creative. They have to be better. Gronowski needs to rely on his experience. They can be a threat because of what Gronowski supplies. And then we didn't really get to defensively.
Let's get there.
They have a lot of really good defensive linemen that are coming in this year, coming back this year. Aaron Graves is a really underrated defensive tackle. Max Llewellyn's an underrated defensive end. And Xavier Nwankpa was a former 5-star safety that decided to come back for another year instead of declaring for the draft. So they've got athletes, and we know that they're well coached.
Here's the thing for me defensively with them. Did you see the tweet I tagged you in?
Yes, I did.
10 seniors in the 2 deep, 9 of them starting. Joe, they don't have but three of the other starters that they have are redshirted juniors. You want to know how Phil Parker and company continue to roll out really successful defenses? Joe, some of them are already taking withdrawals from their 401k. They're so old. I heard their whole secondary they could call AARP. I mean, they are old, really. Them defensively, as we've said on this show for the last 3 years, I'm never going to worry about them. They reloaded a year ago. I think they're going to be really good again defensively. They just got so much damn experience, so much, and they play fundamentally sound. I'm never, when we talk about Iowa, Joe, you know why I don't talk about them defensively? Because, Joe, we come out here every year and talk about the same damn shit over and over and over again with them. I know that the Ferentz, look, I know that it's coming to an end sooner rather than later, and maybe they can finally take a next step. Phil Parker's the best DC in the country based off the level of talent that he has and what he does with it. Golly, they got a lot of experience. And, brother, they got redshirted juniors and redshirted sophomores that are in the 2 deep too. They got guys everywhere that have been there in that system and have been building off of Phil Parker. I think defensively they could be a top 3 unit just based off of who they are. I mean, because every single year, I went back and looked at this. 2 years ago, Joe, of the 11 starters that they had, 9 were seniors. 3 years ago, when they led the Big Ten in defense, 10 were seniors. I mean, it's ridiculous. By the way, you had a first-round pick that didn't even start and was a junior, redshirted. I mean, it's just what they do. I don't know how to come in here and explain that shit.
They are, I mean, again, we're not surprised.
No.
The fact that Parker's bringing back this much experienced talent. And that's what always has made them reliable. Why we can always count on them to show up and to beat up on the middle to the back end of the Big Ten. I think their schedule is pretty.
Yeah, let's go to their schedule.
Their schedule is pretty favorable because they don't play Ohio State. They don't play Michigan this upcoming year. You start with Albany. They go to Iowa State versus UMass, at Rutgers versus Indiana, bye week, at Wisconsin versus Penn State versus Minnesota, bye week, versus Oregon, at USC versus Michigan State, at Nebraska. I still think that this is probably an 8-4 team. Because I don't think that they're going to beat Indiana. I don't think that they're dynamic enough to beat Indiana. I don't think that they're beating Penn State, and I do not think that they're going to beat Oregon. And there's inevitably a trap somewhere that they're going to fall into.
I don't know if they can go beat USC or Nebraska on the road.
Yeah.
They're losing one of those games. Joe, this is a 7-5, 8-4 team at best.
I think they're going to be 8-4. I think they're going to be 8-4.
By the way, I can't believe I'm going to say this. When the hell is Minnesota going to be? because nowhere saw that defense coming out of nowhere last year.
Well, they just lost Heatherman.
That's true too.
So there's a reset there. I'm not worried about Minnesota, but I think that to that point where like you get to the end of the season, here's the crazy thing. There's a shot that going into the final month, they could have one loss. And then they could go in a 1-3 skid in their last 4 games and completely take themselves out of it.
It's the most Iowa thing of all time. It's the most Joe, I literally just got from that area of the country. I just left it. I literally got out the airport in Nebraska on the Nebraska-Iowa line. Do you want me to tell you what I saw?
What?
Corn, Burger King, McDonald's, church, 3 miles down, strip club, corn.
Sounds like a good time.
By the way, the strip club had more people than the church did on that Sunday. Just throwing that out there.
Come on, man.
I'm dead honest. More people were at the strip club. The locals were locals were at the strip club than there was.
You're going to get us in trouble. You're going to get us in trouble.
Joe, I literally saw it with these 2 eyes.
Oh God, I don't know how to analyze that. I don't know.